your favorite challenge that you've issued to your students, or like what's been the one that's resulted in the most
Well,
fun designs?
that's pretty tough because there is one challenge that I did myself, which is the graphics design challenge, and it was a fun way to kind of learn that your regular daily vector tools for UI can actually be used to make some really nice photorealistic almost graphics.
Okay.
But I tried doing a couple more myself, but then I realized that sadly a lot of people that then just wanted to copy my ideas for them.
Yeah.
So I kind of opted not to, which means that I'm one of the people that have the least badges for challenges on my own website, but we can't really do much about that.
That's okay. That's all right. Hey, I like to see it. It sounds like there's a ton of designers too on there that've got some cool, really cool badges. There was like a bunch of them that are doing so many in a row, like 90 days in a row of the UI challenge from this one Gustavo. I was like, wow, that's awesome that you're able to inspire so many people to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, there are actually people that have done 300 something days in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Because like the 90 is just the UI design challenge, and then you can go to another 30 days in another challenge, another 30 days in another challenge. So
Wow.
basically there are people that've been doing it for a year daily, and
Oh
the
my
progress
gosh.
from these people is kind of like something that I really love to see, and just kind of go back to their first designs from a year ago and to see what they're doing now. And even though some of these challenges are kind of, let's say, not really that connected to UX design, it kind of all just the daily work and putting in the time, it actually just results in like amazing stuff. So yeah, I mostly just go there to look at progress from people, and it's amazing.
That's awesome. Very cool. I'm super happy to hear that. We are officially live now on all the channels that we need to be. So I wanted to thank you so much. Welcome everybody in. This is our Zeppelin community interview series called Design to Dev, where we chat with folks who are building and designing beautiful products. We have here with us today Michal. Michal, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what you're working on. We'd love to get to know you.
All right. Hey, I'm a professional skateboarder that kind of does design on the side a little bit. And I've been doing this for 25 plus years. So I might be a little bit cynical sometimes because, well, you just can't stay normal and sane after that many years. But I'm trying to make some positive change and positive impact on the industry. And sometimes a little bit of controversy is good for us. But obviously, at the same time, I'm trying also to be supportive to the community. So yeah, basically I wouldn't say I'm a content creator. I really hate that term, but I kind of do stuff online basically, and I run a couple companies as well.
Awesome. Very cool. So, with that being said, what does your day to day usually look like? Are you mostly focused on the business side of things? Do you really like to get your hands in, get your hands dirty doing the design work? Like, what does your day to day usually look like?
Yeah, that's pretty tough because my days are split into two main parts. One of them is just work, and the other part is doing all of the other crazy things that I do, which is like running longer distances and breathing exercises, cold dips in the sea, and stuff like that. So I actually need to have my 7 hours for exercise and other weird stuff that I do in a day. So I kind of try to structure my work around it actually, and just kind of switch 2 hours of this, 2 hours of that. But yeah, I run an agency. Luckily, my wife has taken a lot of the responsibility from my shoulders herself, and she runs like most of the day-to-day client related stuff. But I really like, well, I have to help sometimes. And then I do all those YouTubes and whatnot. And then I have a couple of startups in different areas that I also need to be kind of aware of what's going on. And I get my hands dirty daily at the moment. I had a break of like a couple months of not even having the time to design, but I hated it.
Mm.
So now I'm actually starting. A few months ago, I started to just do a little bit of stuff myself for every project that we're working on.
Awesome. I love to hear that. It's awesome to see. And back to the Hype Academy too. It's just cool. I think that you're able to motivate so many people to start doing those things and start taking the steps to do little things daily and keep improving every day. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. If you could point to maybe like a core belief or experience that shaped you the most as a designer, what would that be for you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think that all the negative experiences from the past, because I started in an era where you actually had to be a web developer and a designer
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. Back
Mm-hmm.
in 2001, my very first job. So people weren't really as, let's say, understanding and nice to you, the bosses and everybody. So basically, I got shouted at and screamed at and threatened by, getting a pay cut or whatever for whatever reasons. So just kind of getting through that negativity and starting to build my own stuff, I think, was the sort of main thing.
I love that. That's interesting what you said too about how the roles were one before and it's sort of split off now. And now as we're seeing,
Mhm.
with AI coming out, with the rise of the design engineer, we're almost starting to see them kind of come back together in a way too.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're seeing as well too? Is that something that you're excited for? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm excited for a lot of the things that are coming, because it really depends which path they take.
Mm,
And there is a lot of hype and bubble around the whole AI thing. And a lot of the companies, even the very big ones, are trying to kind of push some of those creative ideas just to get more investor money, even though some of these things might not even, fully develop ever, but they're being teased over and over, like that Devon thing that was supposed to replace all developers and
yes.
turned out to be completely on rails. So it's like a lot of empty promises. There is some good use cases in there. We're trying to do some AI related stuff in one of our startups that's also well, trying to avoid being low quality, because what I'm
Mhm.
seeing right now, and a lot of the AI bros will disagree with me here, but if you're using AI for everything right now, then you're just accepting mediocre quality.
Mm,
And many people are fine with that, because most of the internet is kind of mediocre. That's the whole point. Everybody can contribute. But if you're thinking that ChatGPT and then some other like image creation tools are going to do all the work for you, then you might be in for a surprise, because this is just going to be a similar level of work if you just bought a very cheap template from, some template store, and it's not really going to be quality stuff. And the sooner people understand it, I think the better.
all right, I like that. I think that's been something that we've seen a lot too, just within the industry at large. Of input. It's even more important now to be so good at your craft, so you can set yourself apart from, like you said, all of the just regular designs that'll be at the click of a button. You're gonna have to figure out a way to set yourself apart from that. And so I think like we're also seeing more people are like referring to almost as like artisanal design of like, no, this was mostly by me. I was the one who did all of this stuff. Like it's like handcrafted almost if you compare it to like a
Yeah,
factory made versus like a handcrafted product. And
yeah, and
hopefully
people
we'll
pay
start to
more
see that.
for handcrafted stuff.
There
That's
you go.
that's also normal.
Yeah, the
And
people
I'm not
who
against like using some AI, even if you're doing handcrafted. Like I use
sure.
Midjourney a little bit, but I only use it in a way where like I never get an image from Midjourney and just kind of, add it to something and post it.
Mhm.
I always modify it, cut something out, or mix it with another image. So basically all my images that are kind of AI generated are actually also edited in
Mm,
Photoshop's like tool.
yeah.
And it's never like one to one straight from Midjourney. It's like a lot of extra work on every one of them. Because sure, it is very nice to prompt for a specific pose of a person or something that you wouldn't easily find. And I remember the pain of looking through stock photo sites back in the day,
Of course.
that for hours and hours just to find that one perfect photo. And right now you can get it from Midjourney, and then you can swap the face with the face of the actual person
Mm,
that you're looking for. Uh, Change the lighting, modify the background or remove the background and add a different background. So it's still an editing process. It's still a creative process, but it's kind of like maybe replacing a stock photo site, basically, not really replacing your creativity.
I like that a lot, and I think one of the use cases that I've seen from you is you have developed for the Hype Academy like a Mihao bot, which I assume is still in beta now. But I thought that was a really interesting way of almost training it on the way that you would react or respond to certain
Yeah.
designs, be able to provide critiques like that. And I think that's also been something that we've seen from a few other people of they want to see it more of like an assistant of something that can help you with the creative process too. So do you have any other use cases that you are currently using aside from the Midjourney anyone? Or maybe could you tell us a little bit more about Mihalbot and what that looks like?
Well, Michal bot is well. The first thing to clarify: we're not training that bot on what people are doing on the site. This is also always needs to be said because
Yes,
the controversies are everywhere.
of course.
This is only trained on my work and my books, and we added a little bit of like that kind of cheekiness approach to it. So sometimes it's not very nice when it's critiquing your design, but that's kind of how I would be anyway.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. It's improving a little bit. It's getting better, but about 30% of the time it gets things, well, let's say just not quite right.
Hmm.
Still 70% of the time it gives pretty good feedback. Human feedback is always better than that anyway, because it can catch a lot of other nuances that the AI just can't get. But if you're a beginner, the thing on the platform is that our pro users just get that AI comment anyway. So like if they upload anything, in a few minutes, they will get some feedback from the AI bot. And then in a few hours, usually they get some feedback from us humans. And
Awesome.
if you combine those two things, it's a lot easier to learn. And then coming back to the initial question, I'm actually only using Midjourney at the moment.
Okay.
I'm exploring cloud because I want to build some iOS apps, and I tried, a little bit in Swift UI with the help of that AI, but I'm not yet completely ready time wise. So I kind of moved it to like mid August to fully start with that. I don't use any chatbot. I have a subscription to ChatGPT, and I find it just so bad. And I know all the prompts. Like, imagine you're a best-selling author or whatever.
Yes.
This is just BS. I'm sorry. It's kind of like really, really low quality stuff. It's like recycling internet content of like the lowest possible quality. And I know people who use it because, well, they don't know any better. They don't have an option to maybe sit down and spend some time actually using your head and thinking what to write.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't think I ever once even found ChatGPT useful for anything.
There
Like,
you go.
I tried some like brainstorming ideas and stuff like that. It was just never like, okay, maybe there was some like a seed of an idea, but then
Uh-huh.
I changed 99% of it. But generally, no, I just kind of I like Midjourney, even though there is controversy around it. So I also am very careful on how I use it. So
Hmm.
I try not to imitate art styles, for example, because that
Mm.
can be copyrighted stuff just being let's say misused.
Yeah.
So I'm mostly going for abstract stuff or photorealistic images of people, but I always modify them. Like I change the eye color, I change the hair. So basically, it's not really the same person anymore. But
Yeah.
I'm like very very careful with that. So I don't want to infringe on anything. So I check whether that style is actually maybe some artists. Idea. And if Midjourney generates any kind of watermark or little signature at the bottom, then I
Mm.
kind of skip that always, because that means that it's probably just being taken from some artwork.
Yeah, awesome. That's a very ethical and human-centric approach to it, which I really like to see. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm excited to hear, hopefully if you are intending to document your experience with Claude in August, hopefully we'll see that on X. If not, I'm excited to hopefully check in with you maybe in
Yeah,
a
I
few
have a
months to see how it's
couple
going.
small app ideas that I want to build to kind of for my other interest, which is mostly kind of pushing the limits of human potential.
Okay.
So like very, very cold swims in like the Arctic Circle and
Mm.
measuring stuff like that, doing a lot of saunas, a lot of runs and things like that. So I want to build apps for, let's say, extreme people.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited to follow along with that. I feel like we're getting a sneak peek here into how you're thinking about that. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that, and I'll be glued to your profile to see what new things are coming out. So thank you.
Well, knowing me, it's gonna be delayed, but
All good. All good. It's coming. Maybe sometime in the rest of this year. Instead of August, feel like it's coming later this year. It'll be there.
yeah, definitely
Awesome.
want to do it. So we'll see when.
There you go. There you go. I'm really excited to kind of go back to the conversation too, just about you as a designer. You said you've been doing this since 1998. You've got over 500 apps and websites that you've built or designed here. So, like, I want to know from you, how has the field of design changed since you started? You sort of spoke to that a little bit before about how the roles used to be merged, used to be all one, and now they're
Yeah.
different. But like, what are the other big changes that you've seen?
Well, the main change is that, and I'm really sad about that change, is that people don't own their work anymore. They kind of usually work in larger teams, and there is like this split responsibility. So nobody really feels like, to put their foot down and this is my decision, let's go with it. And
Mm,
most people are afraid of that. And that leads to design by committee more often than not. And that leads to really bad design.
mm,
And obviously, that doesn't happen in smaller companies or like 2, 3 people agencies, because they usually just have one person doing an entire project and just brainstorming together. So that's one thing. But as trends or like maybe kind of design trends go, actually, it's pretty interesting because it goes in 7-year circles.
mm,
So it started with actually kind of flat design, which was like super minimal, simple text, mostly in a serif font on a white background. So like pretty minimal flat design. But then it went to skeuomorphism for a few years. Then it went to more realistic skeuomorphism once the screens got better. And then it went to like super flat minimal. And now it's kind of coming back to those,
yeah.
let's say, more vibrant glassmorphic elements or lighting effects. So this is kind of interesting that there is like the variety back again, because I remember working in the like early 2000s at an agency. We used Flash for a lot of the websites that we were building, and that allowed us to do like crazy animations on the web, and things that like were super unique and really nice looking. And then it went to all that kind of minimalism, and for a while there was no way to really nicely animate on the web. Now we have tools like Rive and others that kind of push in that direction. So we're now kind of, after those few years of the minimalism and like aesthetic design, we're getting to the opposite end. And also that kind of usually goes a little bit too far in every direction. When it's the pendulum, it kind of
Yep.
goes too far. And a good example is one of the most copied websites of the last few years, the Linear website.
Yep.
When they redesigned, they actually went with a much simpler and less flashy design, because in the end, it's what converts, not what kind of looks good on design blogs. And apparently to them, a simpler site is actually easier, on the cognitive load of the person looking at it. So it might be cool for a designer to see everything moving and scrolling in parallax, but like regular people that are using the site, they might not be that impressed.
Mhm.
So yeah, understanding that sometimes going too far in the visual fidelity can also not be a great idea is, I think, pretty important in there.
I like that a lot. I think that that comes down to almost like the experience of a designer, something that they can bring uniquely to a project. What are some of those other best skills that designers can learn now that they can use for the rest of their careers? Instead of being
Mm.
a specialist in one specific type of design, like what are some of the other skills that they can take with them?
Well, I'm trying to discourage people from being specialists, because that kind of approach is only relevant for maybe 5% of like the biggest companies that want to hire in narrow niches, and everybody's like
Hmm.
in their little box working with like a huge team of other people. But most companies are actually kind of looking for generalists. And what I'm thinking is actually, because like a standard answer to that question would be like, yeah, learn 3D or some CSS or whatever. But like all of those things are pretty close to design in general, because like CSS defines design, 3D can augment design. So like it's all connected. But what I believe is the most impactful for people is actually learning how businesses work, because
Okay.
this is a crazy thing that I've noticed, that like 90% of people out there have no idea that they are paying taxes, or that they should be paying taxes from their freelance work. Many
Okay.
of them don't, and then they might get like this unpleasant visit down the road in a
From
few
the
years.
IRS. Yep.
And there's like, you're doing professional work online, selling your work, selling your designs, and you're not really handling the basics. And even from that spawns like a lot of other interesting and important things like negotiating with clients and picking, like many people complain that they can't put something in their portfolio because of an NDA. Well,
Mm.
then put it in the contract that you want it to be in your portfolio, and say that if the client asks to remove that, then the price is higher. If they're happy to pay you more, then that's fine. But like, negotiate, bargain with them, kind of
Yeah.
do something. And most just kind of accept it, move those rectangles, which is obviously a nice skill and nice to do. But I believe it's kind of looking beyond just clicking on a computer, because obviously it's good to have all those additional clicking on the computer skills, a little bit of coding, a little bit of that, a little bit of animation. But yeah, I really think that if you get the skill to articulate what you mean, and the skill to negotiate with people, because you're going to be negotiating all your life, like
Mhm.
with everybody, with a person in a queue in front of you, if they're going to let you through because you're in a hurry, or at an airport or something. And then with a client that you want to sell the design to, or the client that you want to get, or a potential employer. So it's always trying to win over with logical and good arguments. So I think like mental preparation for stuff like that is something that I believe people should be focusing on a lot. And then on top of that, something that I personally love the most when people are doing work is a unique way of talking or presenting your own work. And by that I mean storytelling, but in a, like, I have a cool example of one of our students that did like some skateboarding app, and obviously that's my thing as well.
Sure.
So what he did in the case study was like obviously a lot of the usual stuff, a lot of the kind of screens, flows, wireframes, and whatnot. But he actually took photos of himself at a skate park interviewing 14-year-old skateboarders
Oh,
of what they would like to see in an app like that, and just adding those personal things like that to the case study, like, instantly makes it more interesting, because I've seen those flows and those wireframes in a million other apps already, and it's
yeah.
basically, it doesn't matter what your app does, it's still going to be a similar flow over and over and over. So what's interesting is your own approach. Maybe like you're a designer that also skateboards, so you want to make a skateboarding app. So you go to a skate park, you see how people skate, and then you ask them questions, then you present those questions, and maybe at the end, once you have the app designed, you can send some screenshots of it onto the phones of those kids and have them take a photo with you showing your app. So kind of like your initial potential users, like, get out of the comfort zone of templatization, because everybody is just on a template of some kind.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. Fantastic advice for anybody who's watching, whether you're just getting into design, whether you've been in the field for 10 years and you're looking for a way to do that, but finding a way to set yourself apart, I think is always fantastic. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. That was an awesome story too about your student. Very cool. Thank you so much. My last few questions here for you relate more to going from design to development, which you have a very unique understanding of course, again, too, about how they work together, then they've diverged and maybe are starting to come together now here too. So what does the future of going from design to development look like, in your opinion?
Well, I can't really speak for the whole industry, because there can be some unexpected things. Like maybe there will be some actually useful AI. But for now, I see a couple of futures. I see one future where tools like Framer and Webflow are, people are saying that they're kind of carving a niche in the industry, but I don't really think so. I think that they are replacing some of the, let's say, higher quality template stores.
Mm,
So, before, if you wanted a quick website, you just went to a template like Template Monster or something like that.
mhm.
If you remember that name, you're probably as old as me. But you bought a template, somebody modified it for you, and kind of launched it. And right now, those tools are, I think, for the, like, a typical landing page, because you can't really build a full product in them. Like, let's be
Mhm.
serious. But for a typical landing page, they're enough, and a designer can actually use them to build that landing page. And but in most cases, it's kind of like, if you want like a linear the company level landing page, you're not gonna use these tools likely to build it. You're gonna just hire designers, developers, additional animators, and everybody, and just do like a fully professional website.
Mhm.
But like if you want to be professional, but on a level of like smaller clients that would normally get a template, then you have that option now as a designer to kind of no code your way around it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, from our experience, like we don't really code anymore as a company in our agency because we wanted to focus on our own like let's say stronger points. But we do have two developers still.
Mhm.
They're mostly working on their own stuff, but sometimes they're needed for a client project. And the thing that we did that I think helped us the most is actually we taught them design.
Oh.
So basically we made them into designers, because that like once we as designers, that design part of the company knows CSS at least, and a little bit of HTML, some of them, and I know a little bit more, let's say, then we have a two-way communication that they understand our decisions, we understand their decisions. We don't make things that are impossible to code, even though it's not really a thing anymore, because I think right now pretty much anything is possible to code. It just takes longer.
Sure.
uh, but generally teaching developers design is, I think, one of the most important things. And I'm seeing those roles converge into like a designer developer combo, which is a pretty great thing. There's a couple of creators out there on Twitter or X that are both, and they're making beautiful designs and at the same time coding them with like complex tools behind it. So
Yeah.
it's always nice to see if somebody can kind of bridge the gap between two people. The best way to do that is just to do it as one person.
There you go. I like that a lot. I think Miguel Santa Fe, he was our guest last week, and he's also watching here. He commented on X as well, mentioned that you're always speaking facts. But one thing that he mentioned too was like the future might be, further translation between the two, being able to speak the same language, sort of what you were saying as well too, of
Yeah.
let's get everybody on the same page at the same baseline level of knowledge to where, no matter who you're talking to within the product trio, everybody can understand each other. So that's awesome to hear this again too from a lot of different perspectives. So I really appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing that.
but at the same time, what I said before, the communication part is actually the same thing as a negotiation. So if
Yeah.
you have those extra skills that I talked about before, then you'll be able to negotiate your way around product managers and developers, and potentially maybe get that design a little bit more, in line with what you initially envisioned than, let's say, the constraints that would be normally pushing it to something less than that.
Sure.
So all those skills are useful and are gonna be useful. I think more than design. I'm realizing now that my strongest skill from like all the skills that I have is not even design. Like my wife does much better design than me, and that's why she's running the company now.
Yeah.
But my main skill is actually kind of understanding problems and solving them really quickly, and being able to think on my feet. And in a meeting with a high profile client, I can actually suggest a solution, and I'm confident about that solution. Like I'm not confident in a way that this is definitely going to work, but like this is an idea that I believe we should test. And many people are afraid to kind of push that, to talk about it. They're kind of like, yeah, what if they laugh at me? What if they say it's a stupid idea?
Mm.
And I believe that's the strongest thing, because we need design leaders. And by leaders, I don't mean like some super designers that are gurus or whatever,
Yeah.
but people who can just kind of say, yeah, I really think we should do this, not wait for 50 meetings and get somebody else to decide for us. Let's make decisions. That's the thing.
All right. I love that. I
I
love
got a little
the
bit emotional with that, sorry, but it's like I'm missing that a lot in meetings with people now, that they're kind of like unable to take action in many cases. They're kind of in those teams in niches, and it's kind of like feeling like everybody's waiting for somebody else to tell them what to
yeah.
do.
Yeah, I hope you don't feel sorry about that. I think that's a fantastic thing to get emotional about, to get fired up about. That's a fantastic thing to do. I hope that everybody watching feels even more inspired to take action within their organizations to really up level
Well,
as well too.
hopefully, because when I retire in a few years to do ultra marathons, I want people to do good design, because I will be using those apps. So please don't
There you go.
disappoint me.
That's the ultimate. You're playing the ultimate long game of training all these up and coming designers, so you have good designs to
Yeah,
use when you're done. I love it.
exactly. That's been my plan all along.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, Michal, thank you very much. Those were all of my questions that I had for you. We have come to my favorite segment of the show, which I so lovingly call So You Think You're a Designer. It's where we put your design skills to the test using a web-based version of Microsoft Paint, and you have just 2 minutes to recreate the Zeppelin logo right up here. So if you want to, feel free to share your screen, and we will go ahead and follow along. Your time will start as soon as the first pixel hits the screen, hits the canvas, I should say. And I'll give you...
That's good. I looked at this app a little bit. Let me just quickly move this window here to the other screen so I can see both you and what I'm doing.
It looks good. Everything is solid. We are all ready for you.
Let me just draw a line first, not as part of this, just to see if it works.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, let's do this. But I actually looked at this app a little bit, earlier, just kind of to see what it can do. And I realized that doing this in color would be a nightmare because there's just going to be a lot of clicks. So I'm just going to do a black and white version.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And for anybody who wants to follow along, the website is just called jspaint.app if you want to try your hand at it too. But we're ready whenever you are.
So I'm still holding the mouse click. So let me know when I can release and we can start.
You are all good.
Okay, so let's do this.
Perfect. Oh, using the tilt, the angles. There's only one other designer who's used the tilt before, so I appreciate the dedication here.
Yeah, I'm not really that good in retro tools, even though I used to use them quite a lot back in the day.
Oh, this is good. Oh, wow. Okay. This is fantastic. Oh my gosh. I'm always so impressed by what the people are able to do with this. This is fantastic. Oh my gosh. This might be our most accurate one yet.
Right. Yeah, and this is the black and white. Like what we could do here is using that white color to kind of remove those parts.
Yeah, because you still have a whole minute left. So if you want to take your time to do that, you are more than welcome to. Or if you wanna wrap it up and leave it here, that is a-okay too. This looks phenomenal.
Yeah, that's not a great. Those are not really great tools. I'm so happy that we have those better ones now.
I always say during this, I'm always like, okay, if you had to do all of your design work for the next week in this app, could you do it? And the answer is always no.
Well, no, I actually could because I don't really do like a typical design anymore. I'm mostly doing thinking, so I do a lot of that on paper.
Okay, all right, good to know. Oh, this is beautiful. I love that. This is so good. This is definitely a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, the problem with this is that you don't really have like a lot of options in terms of modifying that.
That is true. That is true. Sadly, Microsoft Paint has not kept up with the times. Oh my goodness, I love this, and
I do see people doing pretty nice things in this.
All right.
So basically,
beautiful. Wow. I'll give a round of applause. This is fantastic. This looks like something that came out of our style guide, of our brand guide. This is beautiful.
The ellipses are not at the right angle, but yeah, I'm trying to do whatever I can quickly here, and if it's 2 minutes, then you can't get too crazy. But I actually did some design exercises in Apple Pages, in Microsoft Word, so I'm kind of somewhat versed in those, let's say, old school tools. I also used like the very first version of Sketch a few years ago, which also had like a lot of limitation to do an actual app design. And yeah,
There you
So
go.
we
It's
truly are.
a good practice. This is fantastic. We've got and we're all wrapped up here too. We've got a lot of comments here on X. Ahmed wants to know if there's a good starting point to learn any of these skills that you were talking about. Dave is talking about how you are the goat, that you are literally a god for what you're able to do here with JS Paint. So again, I appreciate you, commend you on this.
Well,
So yeah, that wraps us all up. So if you want, you're welcome to stop sharing. We can come back in and you can give your final
all right.
words of wisdom to everybody. But thank you so much again, Michal. This was a
All right.
fantastic
Yeah, no
get to
problem.
know
If
you.
like if somebody has some questions, I'm not on X at the moment, so I can maybe answer like one or two if you have something to
Sure.
share.
Yeah. So the best question I think to answer here, and maybe this leads into Hype Academy as well too. Not sure, but Ahmed commented, "What would be a good starting point to learn these skills? Are there any books that you recommend?" Sort of referring back to those. What are the best skills a designer could take with them?
Well, Stephen Pressfield's books, I think all of them basically, that's a very good start. And then after that, it's practice and being one good thing to do is to look at the big companies making mistakes. I recently posted some of the bigger, well known for good design brands doing some pretty bad work in some places, like
Mhm.
bad QA, and that gives you this whole idea that even if those big, awesome companies are making mistakes, even Apple makes mistakes sometimes in UIs, then you shouldn't feel bad about your own skills and you should be able to more comfortably just take action and say, let's do this. And one thing that I could recommend if you want to start taking action and being, taking responsibility and owning your work is to always give that clause, or so let's say the bottom line, that if you're planning to do something, always plan how you're going to test it. So don't just come up with an idea and just let's do this and no matter what, but like
Mhm.
let's do this and then maybe we can test it like this or like this. But the thing is that people are naturally nowadays flocking to others who are, yeah, who are strong leaders basically. So if you are able to kind of own those design decisions or business decisions or any decisions, then other people are going to naturally follow you in terms of like, in a company setting, or even the clients are going to be more comfortable because the clients don't really come to you for design itself. They come to you for your expertise, and they come to
Mhm.
you, most of them. Obviously, there are some who want to micromanage, and we try to avoid those, but most of them actually come to you so they can forget about this whole process and just wait for you to deliver the product to them. And they want it, off their head because they have their own things to do. They don't really want to be managing you, or they don't really want to be guiding you through everything. Obviously, you need to ask the client questions, but if you're kind of showering them with questions all the time, then who's the designer here? Like, is the client
Mhm.
designing? Or if you're asking for feedback, we never ask for feedback. We just send things that are well argumented. And if there is feedback, then there is feedback. We never say, here is our design, let me know what you think about it, because that doesn't really matter. Like, if they have some thoughts in terms of the business strategy or other things, that they're going to give them anyway when they see the design. But asking for feedback is kind of like putting yourself out there, like, I'm not sure what I delivered to you, so don't do that. Be completely confident, because we really need that.
I love that. I love that. That was all the questions. Most of it is just praise for you, and
Well,
for your design. So thank you very much, Mio. It's been a very refreshing conversation to be able to speak with somebody so candidly about what you think the future is, how you think designers can improve overall. Like I think what you were doing is trying to uplift the entire community, which I think is very admirable. So thank you very much for doing what you do. If you'd like to plug anything, the Hype Academy, your studio, leave us off with any words of wisdom. The floor is all yours.
I don't really think that I kind of have to, because most people already know about the academy. But what I want to stress, which is going to be like an anti-plug for myself at the end of this, is that if you finish all my courses and read all my books and do all the challenges, you can still fail. Because the thing that kind of pushes you, obviously I'm trying to give you the tools or materials to do it, to do in life as best as you can. But if you don't put in the work and the energy and the dedication, determination, motivation, ambition, then you're gonna fail anyway, because nothing is gonna help you. And a good counter example to that is those people who done the daily challenges for 300 days, because
Mm.
they are now getting hired, still being a junior. They're getting hired in an economy that looks like this, because yeah, if you own your decisions, if you're confident, and if you do a lot of work, because there are no hacks, then I guess some of my stuff can really help you, but you need to help yourself first. So
All
yeah.
right. Okay. Thank you very much. This was fantastic. We got both a plug and an anti-plug, which I think is
I
very is
like
very
balance.
admirable. It perfectly balanced, as all things should be, right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time. I really do appreciate it. This was a fantastic chat with you. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom, your thoughts on everything too. If everybody is interested, we do try to host these shows weekly on Wednesdays. So feel free to tune in next Wednesday for another new guest on Design to Dev. With that being said, I'm Nico from Zeppelin. It was a fantastic show here today, and thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day today, and take care.
All right.
Bye
Thanks for
bye.
having me. Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah.